Chapter 72. In spite of the most earnest dissuasion, Zhu Huan crossed the river and camped. Guanzhong and Zhao Zilong asked to be allowed to go against the host of Cao Cao, and Liu Bei gave his consent. Then said Guanzhong, "Zhu Huan has been bold enough to come. We will not go out against him till evening, when his soldiers are fatigued. Then we will fall upon him, one on either side." Zhao Zilong consented, and each retired to a stockade. Zhu Huan appeared and for a long time tried to draw them into a fight, but they refused to go forth. Then Zhu Huan ordered his bowmen to begin to shoot straight before them, and the arrows and bolts fell in the Shu camp. Guanzhong said he must be thinking of retreat or he would not shoot thus. "Now is our time to smite him." Then the scouts reported that the rearmost bodies of the enemy had begun to retreat. The drums of Shu rolled a deafening peal, and Guanzhong's army from the left and Zhao Zilong's army from the right came to the attack, and the double fight began. Zhu Huan was badly defeated, and the flying soldiers were forced to River Han, where many were drowned. But Zhu Huan escaped after fighting desperately, and when he got back to camp, he blamed his colleague Wang Ping for not having come to his aid. "Had I done so, these camps would have been left unguarded," said Wang Ping. "I tried to dissuade you from going, but you would not hear me, and you brought about this reverse yourself." Zhu Huan in his wrath tried to slay Wang Ping, but Wang Ping escaped to his own camp. In the night, Wang Ping set fire on both camps, and great confusion reigned in the lines. Zhu Huan ran away, but Wang Ping crossed the river and surrendered to Zhao Zilong, who led him to Liu Bei. Wang Ping told Liu Bei all about River Han and the country nearby. "I shall surely capture Hanzhong now that you are here to help me, friend Wang Ping," said Liu Bei. Liu Bei made Wang Ping general and army guide. Zhu Huan reported Wang Ping's defection, which made Cao Cao very angry. Cao Cao placed himself at the head of a force and tried to retake the bank of the river. Zhao Zilong, thinking his troops too few, retired to the west side, and the two armies lay on opposite sides of the stream. Liu Bei and his adviser came down to view the position. Zhu Ziliang saw in the upper course of the stream a hill which might well screen 1,000 soldiers. So Zhu Ziliang returned to camp, called in Zhao Zilong and said, "General, you lead 500 troops with drums and horns and place them in ambush behind the hill, to await certain orders, which will come some time during the night or at dawn. When you hear a detonation, you are not to appear, only give a long roll of the drums at every report." Zhao Zilong departed to play his part in the drama, while Zhu Ziliang went to a hill whence he could overlook the scene. When next the army of Cao Cao approached the camp of Shu and offered battle, not a man came out, nor was an arrow or bolt shot. They retired, without any result. But in the depths of the night, when all the lights in the camp were extinguished, and all appeared tranquil and restful, Zhu Ziliang exploded a bomb, and at once Zhao Zilong beat his drums and blared his trumpets. Cao Cao's soldiers awoke in alarm, thinking it was a night raid. They rushed out, but there was no enemy, and as the hubbub ceased they went back to sleep. Soon after there was another bomb, and again the drums, and the trumpets seeming to shake the earth itself, and the fearsome roar echoing along the valleys and from the hills again scared Cao Cao's soldiers. Thus the night passed in constant alarms. The next night was the same, and the next. On the fourth day Cao Cao broke up his camp, marched his troops 10 miles to the rear and pitched his camp in a clear, wide space among the hills. Zhu Ziliang was pleased at the result of his ruse. Said he, smiling, "Cao Cao is skilled in war, but still he is not proof against all deceitful tricks." The troops of Shu then crossed the river and camped with the stream behind them. When Liu Bei asked the next move he was told, but also told to keep the plan a secret. Seeing Liu Bei thus encamped, Cao Cao became doubtful and anxious, and to bring things to a decision, he sent a written declaration of war, to which Zhu Ziliang replied that they would fight a battle on the morrow. On the morrow the armies faced each other halfway between the two camps in front of the mountain of 5 borders, and there they arrayed. Cao Cao presently rode up, stood beside his banner, with his officers right and left and the dragon and phoenix banners fluttering in the wind. His drums rolled thrice, and then he summoned Liu Bei to a parley. Liu Bei rode out supported by Liu Feng Mengda and other leaders. Then Cao Cao insolently flourished his whip and vilified his opponent. "Liu Bei, you have forgotten kindness and lost the sense of right. "You are a rebel against the government." Liu Bei answered, "I am related to the imperial family, and I hold an edict authorizing me to seize all rebels. You have dared to lift up your hand against Empress Fu, made yourself a king, and arrogantly presumed to an imperial chariot. If you are not a rebel, what are you?" Then Cao Cao ordered Zhu Hong out to give battle, and Liu Feng went to meet him. As the combat began, Liu Bei retired within the ranks of his array. Liu Feng was no match for his opponent and fled. Cao issued an order to capture Liu Bei, saying, "He who captures Liu Bei will be made Prince of Hanzhong." At this the army of Wei uttered one great roar of rage, then they came surging on. The troops of Shu fled toward the river, abandoning everything, even throwing aside their weapons, which littered the road. But as Cao Cao's army pressed forward, he suddenly clanged the gongs, called a halt, and drew off. "Why did you call us off, O Prince, just as we were on the point of success?" said his commanders. "Because I saw the enemy had encamped with the river in their rear, which was very suspicious. They also abandoned their steeds and weapons, which made me doubt. Wherefore I could only retire. But retain your armor. Let not a person take off his harness on pain of death. Now retire as quickly as you can march." As Cao Cao turned about to retire, Zhu Ziliang hoisted the signal to attack, and the retreating soldiers were harassed on every side both night and day till they were all disordered. Cao ordered his army to retire to Nanjing. Presently they saw flames rising all around, and soon it was known that their city of refuge was in the hands of Zhang Fei, and Wei Yan, who, after Yan Yan had taken the command of Langzhong, had launched a double attack and captured Nanjing. Disappointed and saddened, Cao Cao bade them march to Yangping Pass. Liu Bei with the main army followed them to Beizhou and Nanjing, and there pacified the people and restored confidence. "Cao Cao was exceedingly quickly overcome this time," said Liu Bei. "How was that?" "He has always been of a suspicious nature," said Zhu Ziliang, "and that has led to many failures, although he is a good leader of armies. I have defeated him by playing upon his doubts." "He is rather weakened now," said Liu Bei. "Can you not devise a plan to drive him away finally? That is all thought out." Next, Zhang Fei and Wei Yan were sent along 2 different roads to cut off Cao Cao's supplies. 2 other cohorts led by Huangzhong and Zhao Zilong were bidden to go and fire the hills and forests. All these 4 armies had natives of the place to act as guides and show the way. Cao Cao's scouts sent out from Yangping Pass returned to report the roads for near are blocked by the troops of Shu, and every place seems to be burning. No soldiers seen. Cao knew not what to do. Then other scouts told him, "Our stores are being plundered by Zhang Fei and Wei Yan." At this, Cao Cao called for a volunteer to drive off the plunderers, and Zhu Chu offered. He was given 1,000 veterans, and went down the pass to act as escort of the grain wagons. The officers in charge of the transport were very glad to receive a general of such renown. "Except for you, O General, the grain could never reach Yangping Pass." They entertained Zhu Chu with the wine and food on the carts, and he ate and drank copiously, so that he became very intoxicated. And in that state he insisted on marching, urging the convoy to start at once. "The sun has nearly set," said the transport officers, "and the road near Beizhou is bad and dangerous, so that we cannot pass there at night." "I can face any danger," boasted the drunken general. "I am brave as a myriad men put together. What do you think I fear? Besides, there is a good moon tonight, just the sort of thing to take grain carts along by." Zhu Chu took the lead, sword in hand. By the second watch they were passing Beizhou. About half the train had passed when the rolling drums and the blare of horns came down to them through a rift in the hills. It was soon followed by the appearance of a cohort led by Zhang Fei. With spear ready, he came racing down straight for Zhu Chu, who, whirling his sword, dashed to the front to meet the enemy. But Zhu Chu was too drunk to stand against such a warrior. After a few bouts he received a spear thrust in the shoulder, turned round in his saddle, and fell from his horse. His men rushed to his help, and they carried him away as they retreated, while Zhang Fei took the whole transport train of fodder and foraged away to his own camp. The defeated escort carried their wounded leader back to Cao Cao's camp, where he was placed in the care of physicians. Then Cao Cao himself led out his army to fight a decisive battle with the army of Shu. Liu Bei went out to meet him, and when both sides were arrayed, Liu Feng went out to challenge. Cao Cao at once let loose a torrent of taunts and reproaches. "Seller of shoes, you are always sending out this pretended son of yours to fight for you. If I only call my golden-bearded son Cao Zhang, your so-called son will be chopped to mincemeat." These words enraged Liu Feng, who raised his spear and galloped toward Cao Cao. Cao bade Zhu Huan do battle with the young man, and Liu Feng at once ran away. Cao led on his legions, but he was harassed by the explosion of bombs, the beating of drums, and the blare of trumpets that came from every side. He concluded that he was being led into an ambush, and he hastened to retire. The retreat was unfortunate, for the soldiers trampled upon each other and many were killed. And on they all ran off to Yongping Pass as quickly as they could. But the soldiers of Shu came right up to the walls of the pass, and some burned the east gate while others shouted at the west. Others again burned the north gate while drums rolled at the south. Leaders and led were alike harassed and frightened, and presently they left the pass and ran away. They were pursued and sore smitten. The road to safety was not easy. In one direction Zhang Fei barred the way, while Zhao Zilong attacked the rear. Then Huang Zhan came from Beizhu and pressed assault at the flank. Cao Cao's army lost many troops, and he was severely defeated in this triple attack. His commanders gathered about him and took him off toward the Zai Valley. Here a great cloud of dust was seen in the distance. "If that is an ambush, it is the last of me," sighed Cao Cao. The soldiers came nearer, and then Cao Cao recognized not an enemy but his second son Cao Zhang. As a lad, Cao Zhang was a good horseman and an expert archer. He was more powerful than most men and could overcome a wild beast with his bare hands. Cao Cao did not approve of the young man's bent, and often warned him to study instead. "You do not study, but only love your bow and your horse. This is the courage of a mere person. Think you that this makes for an honorable career?" But Cao Zhang replied, "The really noble person ought to imitate such grand men as Wei King and Hu Kebang. They won their reputation in the Gobi Desert, where they led a mighty host of 100,000, able to overrun the whole world and go anywhere. What have I to do with scholarship?" Cao used to ask his sons what career they found admirable, and Cao Zhang always replied that he would be a leader of armies. "But what should a leader be like?" asked Cao Cao. "He should be endued with firmness and courage, never turn aside from a difficulty, but be in the van of his officers and troops. Rewards should be certain, and so should punishments." Cao smiled with pleasure. In the 23rd year of rebuilt tranquility AD 218, the Wushan peoples revolted in Dachun, and Cao Cao sent this son with 50,000 troops to suppress them. Just as Cao Zhang was leaving, his father read him a homily on his duty. "At home we are father and son, but when a task is given you, you have to consider your duty as a servant of your ruler. The law knows no kindness, and you must beware." When the expedition reached the north of Dachun, Cao Zhang led the array and smote as far as Sangan in the Gobi Desert, and peace was restored. He had lately heard that his father was at Yongping Pass and had come to help him to fight. His coming greatly pleased his father, who said, "Now that my golden-bearded son has arrived, we can destroy Liu Bei for certain." Then the army was marched back again and pitched camp at the Zai Valley. Someone told Liu Bei of the arrival of Cao Zhang, and he asked for a volunteer to go out against the newcomer. Liu Feng offered. Meng Da also desired to go, and Liu Bei decided to let both go. "Vie with each other," said he. Each general had 5,000 troops, and Liu Feng led the way. Cao Zhang rode out and engaged him, and in the third bout Liu Feng was overcome and ran off. Then Meng Da advanced, and a battle was just beginning when he saw that Cao Cao's troops were in confusion. The cause was the sudden coming of Ma Keo and Wu Lan. Before the enemy had recovered from the panic, Meng Da attacked on another side. Ma Keo's force, who had been nursing their courage for a long time, fought brilliantly, so that none could withstand their onslaught, and they won the day. But in his fight, Cao Zhang met Wu Lan, and he thrust and slew Wu Lan with his spear. After a great fight, Cao Cao ordered his army to retire into camp at the Zai Valley. Here he remained many days, prevented from advancing by Ma Keo, and fearing the ridicule of Shu if he should retreat. One day, while he was anxiously trying to decide what to do, his cook sent in some chicken broth. He noticed in the broth some chicken tendons, and this simple fact led him into a train of reflection. He was still deep in thought when Xiaodan entered his tent to ask the watchword for the night. Cao Cao at once involuntarily replied, "Chicken tendon." The word was passed on in orders. When First Secretary Yongzhu saw the order that the watchword was chicken tendon, he told all his people to pack up their belongings ready for the march. One who saw this went and told Xiaodan, who sent for Yongzhu and asked why he had packed up. Yongzhu replied, "By tonight's orders I see that the Prince of Wei is soon going to retire. Chicken tendons are tasteless things to eat, and yet it is a pity to waste them. Now if we advance, we cannot conquer, and if we retire, we fear we shall look ridiculous. There being no advantage here, the best course is to retire. You will certainly see the Prince of Wei retreat before long. I have made my preparations so as not to be hurried and confused at the last moment. You seem to know the Prince's inmost heart," said Xiaodan, and he bade his servants pack. The other generals, seeing this, also made preparations for departure. Cao Cao's mind was too perturbed for sleep. In the night he got up, took a steel battle-axe in his hand, and wandered privily through the camp. When he got to Xiaodan's tents, he saw everything packed and ready for a move. Much surprised, he made his way back to his own tent and sent for the officer. "Why is everything in your camp packed, as if ready for the march?" "First Secretary Yongzhu seems to have private knowledge of the prince's design to retire," said Xiaodan. Cao summoned Yongzhu and questioned him, and Yongzhu replied with the chicken tendon incident. "How dare you invent such a story and disturb the hearts of my army?" Cao called in his lictors and told them to take Yongzhu away and behead him and hang his head at the camp gate. Yongzhu was a man of acute and ingenious mind, but inclined to show off. His lack of restraint over his tongue had often wounded Cao Cao's susceptibilities. Once Cao Cao was having a presence laid out, and when it was completed, he went to inspect the work. He uttered no word of praise or blame. He just wrote the word alive on the gate and left. Nobody could guess what he meant till Yongzhu heard of it. "Gate with alive inside it makes the word for wide," said he. "The Prime Minister thinks the gates are too wide. Thereupon they rebuilt the outer walls on an altered plan. When complete, Cao Cao was asked to go and see it, and he was then delighted. 'But who guessed what I meant?' said he. Yongzhu replied his people. Cao thereafter lauded Yongzhu's ingenuity, but in his heart he feared. Another time Cao Cao received a box of cream cheese from Mongolia. Cao just scribbled 3 words, 1 cream box on the top, and left it on the table. The words seemed to have no meaning, but Yongzhu happened to come in, saw the box, and at once handed a spoonful of the contents to each guest in the room. When Cao Cao asked why he did this, he explained that that was the interpretation of the words on the box, which resolved into primary symbols. "Read each person a mouthful. Could I possibly disobey your orders?" said he. Cao Cao laughed with the others, but hatred was in his heart. Cao lived in constant fear of assassination, and said to his attendants, "Let none of you come near me when I am sleeping, for I am likely to slay people in my dreams." One day he was enjoying a siesta, and his quilt fell off. One of the attendants saw it and hastened to cover him again. Cao suddenly leaped from the couch, cut down the intruder with his sword, and lay down again to sleep. Some time after he awoke, simulated surprise, and asked who had killed his attendant. When they told him, Cao Cao wept aloud for the dead man, and had him buried in a fine grave. Most people thought that Cao Cao had slain the man while asleep, but Yongzhu knew better. At the funeral of the victim, Yongzhu remarked, "The Prime Minister was in no dream, but only you were asleep." This only increased the hatred. Cao Cao's third son, Cao Zhai, took great delight in Yongzhu's cleverness, and often invited him when they would talk the whole night. When Cao Cao was considering the nomination of his heir, and desired to name Cao Zhai, Cao Pai got to hear of the proposal to set him aside in favor of his younger brother. So he secretly requested the master of the court singers, Wu Zhai, to come and discuss this matter. Then, fearing that someone might see his visitor, Cao Pai got a large basket made, in which his friend was smuggled into the palace. Cao Pai gave out that the basket contained rolls of silk. Yang Zhu heard the truth and informed Cao Cao, who sent guards to watch at the gates. Cao Pai, in alarm, told Wu Zhai, who said, "Be not afraid, but to fill a basket actually with rolls of silk on the morrow, and have it carried in as before." The searchers peeped into the basket and found the rolls of silk. They told Cao Cao the result of their search, and Cao Cao began to think Yang Zhu was plotting against his son. This also added to his hatred. Another time Cao Cao, wishing to compare the abilities of his two sons Cao Pai and Cao Zhai, told them both to go out of the city, at the same time ordering the gate wardens to forbid their exit. Cao Pai first came to the gate, was stopped by the wardens, and returned to his palace. But his brother Cao Zhai consulted Yang Zhu, who said, "You have received orders from the prince to go out. Simply cut down any who may try to prevent you." When Cao Zhai went to the gate and was stopped, he shouted out to the wardens, "I have the prince's order to go out. Dare you stop me?" He slew the man who would have prevented him. Wherefore Cao Cao considered his younger son the more able. But when some other person told him that the device came from Yang Zhu, he was angry and took a dislike to his son Cao Zhai. Yang Zhu also used to coach Cao Zhai in preparing replies to likely questions, which were learned by heart and quoted when necessary. Cao was always asking this son his opinion on military matters, and Cao Zhai always had a fluent reply ready. His father was not without suspicions, which were turned into certainties when Cao Pai gave his father the written replies, which Cao Pai had bribed a servant to filch from his brother's apartments. Cao was quite angry. "How dare he throw dust in my eyes like this?" said Cao Cao. Yang Zhu very nearly lost his life for his share in the business. Now sending him to execution on the charge of destroying the morale of the soldiers was only a subterfuge. Yang Zhu was but 34 when he met his end. Talented was Yang Zhu, born of an illustrious stock. His pen traced wonderful characters. In his breast were beautiful words. When he talked, his hearers were astonished. His alert responses overpassed everyone. He died because of misdirected genius, and not because he foretold retreat. Cao Cao thus put to death the prime mover and simulated anger against Zhai Hudan. He threatened to execute Zhai Hudan, but listened to those who begged him to show mercy. "Get out of this," said he. Next, he issued an order to advance on the morrow. The army moved out of the valley and came face to face with the troops of Shu led by Wei Yan. He summoned Wei Yan to surrender, but received abuse and contumely in return. Pangde went out to fight Wei Yan. But while the combat was in progress, fires broke out in Cao Cao's camp, and a soldier came flying to say that the rear and center camps had been seized by Markeo. Fearing lest this should lead to a rout, he drew his sword and stood before the army, crying out, "Death for any officer who flinches." Wherefore the men of Wei pressed forward valiantly, and Wei Yan, pretending defeat, retreated. Having driven back this army, Cao Cao gave the signal to turn toward camp and fight with Markeo. He took up his station on the top of a hill whence he could survey the field. Suddenly a cohort appeared just below him, and the leader cried, "Wei Yan is here." Wei Yan fitted an arrow to his bow shaft and wounded Cao Cao right in his lip. Cao Cao turned and fell. Wei Yan threw aside his bow, seized his sword, and came charging up the hill to finish his enemy. But with a shouting Pangde flashed in. "Spare my lord," cried Pangde. He rushed up and drove Wei Yan backward. Then they took Cao Cao away. Markeo also retired, and the wounded prince slowly returned to his own camp. Cao was wounded full in the face, and the arrow knocked out 2 of his front teeth. When in the hands of the physicians, he lay thinking over Yang Zhu's words. In a repentant mood he had Yang Zhu's remains decently interred. Then he gave the order to retreat. Pangde was the rear guard. Cao set out homeward in a padded carriage, escorted by his tiger guards. Before they had gone far, there was an alarm of fire and ambush in the Zai Valley. The soldiers of Wei were all fear-stricken. That was something like the danger once at Tong Pass met, or like the fight at the Red Cliffs, which no one could never forget. How Cao Cao fared will next be told.